Have you ever noticed that after a bad night of sleep, everything feels harder? Your thoughts feel slower, your patience is thinner, sounds seem more irritating, conversations feel harder to follow, and by midday, you're already mentally exhausted. Most people blame this on being tired. But what if poor sleep is doing much more than just making you feel groggy? What if it's quietly affecting both your hearing and your brain function at the same time? Today, we're going to talk about how poor sleep affects your hearing and your brain, and why this connection is far more important than most people realize. We'll keep this simple, grounded in science, and focused on helping you understand what's really happening when sleep quality breaks down. Because sleep is not just rest. Sleep is maintenance. And when that maintenance doesn't happen properly, the systems that support clarity, focus, and hearing begin to struggle. Let's start with an important truth. Hearing is not just about your ears. Your ears collect sound, but your brain is responsible for interpreting it. Every word you understand, every voice you recognize, every sound you filter out requires active brain processing. That means your hearing is only as clear as your brain's ability to process sound. Sleep plays a critical role in keeping that system working properly. When you sleep well, your brain goes through cycles that repair neural connections, balance neurotransmitters, regulate inflammation, and clear out metabolic waste. These processes are essential for memory, focus, emotional regulation, and sensory processing. When sleep is poor or inconsistent, those processes don't complete properly. One of the first things affected by poor sleep is attention. Attention is the foundation of good hearing. Your brain needs stable attention to separate speech from background noise, follow conversations, and interpret subtle sound cues. After poor sleep, attention becomes fragile. Your brain struggles to stay locked on to one source of information. It becomes easier to get distracted by irrelevant sounds. Noise feels louder, more chaotic, and harder to ignore. This is why people who are sleep deprived often say things like, "I can hear people talking, but I can't understand them," or "everything sounds overwhelming," or "noise just wears me out." It's not that your ears suddenly stopped working, it's that your brain doesn't have the energy to manage sound efficiently. Poor sleep also affects processing speed. Sound moves fast. Speech happens in fractions of seconds. Your brain has to keep up in real time. When you're sleep deprived, processing speed slows down. Words may feel jumbled. Conversations may feel slightly out of sync. Your brain starts falling behind, even if you don't consciously realize it. That delay forces your brain to work harder to fill in gaps, and that extra effort leads directly to listening fatigue. Listening fatigue is the mental exhaustion that comes from prolonged effort to understand sound. Poor sleep makes listening more effortful, which means fatigue builds faster and lasts longer. Another critical factor is memory. Hearing and memory are deeply connected. Your brain relies on short-term memory to hold on to words and sounds long enough to make sense of them. Poor sleep impairs this working memory. When working memory weakens, you may forget what was just said. You may lose track of conversations. You may feel mentally foggy or disconnected. Again, this isn't a character flaw. It's a physiological effect of poor sleep on brain function. Sleep also regulates emotional processing. When you're sleep deprived, your emotional reactivity increases. Small frustrations feel bigger. Noise feels more irritating. Background sounds feel intrusive. This emotional amplification makes hearing problems feel worse. Even normal sound levels can feel stressful when the brain is emotionally dysregulated. Over time, this creates a negative feedback loop. Poor sleep makes hearing more difficult. Difficult listening increases stress. Stress further disrupts sleep, and the cycle continues. Now let's talk about the ears themselves. Sleep affects circulation. During deep sleep, blood flow is optimized for repair and nourishment. The inner ear depends on healthy blood flow to maintain its delicate structures. Poor sleep disrupts this process. Chronic sleep deprivation has been linked to reduced circulation efficiency and increased inflammation. Inflammation can affect the tiny hair cells in the inner ear that are responsible for converting sound vibrations into nerve signals. These hair cells are fragile. They do not regenerate easily. Over time, repeated strain from inflammation and poor recovery can make them more vulnerable to damage. Sleep also plays a role in hormone regulation. Poor sleep increases cortisol, the stress hormone. Chronically elevated cortisol can interfere with nerve health, increase inflammation, and impair sensory processing. This means that even if hearing loss doesn't occur immediately, hearing clarity and comfort may gradually decline. Poor sleep is also closely linked to tinnitus. Many people notice that ringing or buzzing in their ears feels worse after a bad night of sleep. That's because sleep deprivation increases brain excitability and reduces the brain's ability to suppress irrelevant signals. When the brain is overtired, it becomes more aware of internal noise. Sounds that were previously ignored become harder to tune out. This makes tinnitus feel louder and more intrusive. Balance can also be affected. The inner ear is responsible for balance as well as hearing. Poor sleep can disrupt coordination between the inner ear and the brain, leading to dizziness, lightheadedness, or a general sense of instability. These symptoms are often subtle at first, but over time they can contribute to discomfort and reduced confidence in movement. Another overlooked factor is muscle tension. Poor sleep increases muscle tension throughout the body, including the jaw, neck, and shoulders. These areas are closely connected to structures around the ear. Ongoing tension can affect how sound vibrations are perceived and contribute to sensations of pressure or fullness in the ears. When you combine all of this, a clear picture emerges. Poor sleep doesn't just make you tired. It reduces attention, slows processing, weakens memory, increases emotional reactivity, disrupts circulation, raises inflammation, and strains the auditory system. Individually, these effects might seem small, but over time they add up. This is why chronic poor sleep is often associated with long-term cognitive decline, increased hearing difficulties, and reduced quality of life. The good news is that many of these effects are functional, not permanent, especially in the early stages. That means they're related to how the system is operating, not irreversible damage. And functional problems can improve when sleep improves. When sleep quality increases, attention stabilizes, processing speed improves, memory becomes sharper, emotional regulation strengthens, hearing clarity often improves as a result. This is why people often notice that after a few nights of good sleep, everything feels easier. Conversations flow more smoothly, noise feels less overwhelming, focus lasts longer. Sleep is restorative, not just for the brain, but for the entire hearing system. Supporting hearing health without addressing sleep is like trying to fix a car without changing the oil. You may get temporary relief, but the underlying strain remains. That's why modern approaches to hearing and brain health increasingly emphasize sleep as a foundation, not an afterthought. Supporting sleep means supporting the nervous system, circulation, inflammation balance, and cognitive processing. When those systems are supported, hearing becomes less effortful and mental fatigue decreases. This doesn't mean you need perfect sleep every night. Life happens, stress happens. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is consistency and recovery. Even small improvements in sleep quality can have meaningful effects on how you hear and think during the day. Understanding this connection empowers you. It helps you stop blaming yourself for feeling foggy, distracted, or overwhelmed by sound. It helps you recognize sleep as a critical factor in hearing clarity and brain function. If you've been struggling with poor sleep and noticing changes in focus, memory, or hearing comfort, it's worth paying attention. Your body may be asking for support. Hearing health is not isolated. Brain function is not isolated. Sleep ties them together. And the earlier you support that connection, the better your long-term outcomes tend to be. If you'd like to learn more about how people are supporting their sleep, hearing, and brain health together, there's a resource linked below that explains this approach in more detail.
It walks through the thinking behind it and why many adults are choosing to support these systems proactively instead of waiting for problems to escalate. You don't have to decide anything right now. Just explore the information, learn something new, and see if it resonates with your experience. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.